Welcome to Terminal City Tales. We're the program that brings you stories told by people like you. Today's show is Stargazing. Our storytellers today are Marylee Stephenson, Victoria Fedulova, Woody Morrison, and Nikki MacLennan. Our first story is from Marylee Stephenson.
When I was in college at Berkeley in the 60s, I was recruited to be a camp counselor for something or by something called the New York City Mission Society. I had been coming back from my little time in Europe, and we were on some studentship, and this man, he was their recruiter, and he showed us this wonderful movie about all the good work they did with the poor black kids in Harlem and all, and so naturally this would appeal to one. So I signed up for the next summer. And it was called Sharperoon. It was in upstate New York. And the kids who came there were all Latin or Puerto Rican, as it was at that time, Puerto Rican and black. And they lived in a place called Callagee Hall. And Callagee Hall in New York City was the kind of place, it was kind of a combination of foster home, transition home, orphanage, and just disaster shelter, where when a family had totally broken down, and then the kids would be there, and for various pieces of time, some of them even aging out. It was again a last resort, and the kids knew it. And they were there at the camp 3 weeks in the summer, okay? And I didn't know much about Callagee except that they brought with them their toothbrushes. Their toothbrushes were black, and they had etched in them property of the city of New York. And I kept thinking, what did they do? Recycle them to the next kid? I found that the most horrifying thing somehow. And the kids didn't want to be there because, first of all, they knew they were there because they had to be there, because Callagee Hall closed down a certain time of the year or whatever, and so they were not there by choice. They also didn't want to be there because it was creepy for them. They were very urban kids. And so there they are, buses, hours away from New York City, in these cabins that had, the beds were just a canvas stretched over a poles, very, very basic. And there were these big woods out there, and there was this lake that was kind of almost slimy and that had leeches, and they were, it was just not something they liked. And I was placed with the 13 and 14-year-old girls, and there were 4 cabins. And because in our 3-week orientation, I was seen as someone who could handle this. Because the counselors were like most of us, either from, Berkeley, Oberlin, Worcester of Ohio, good-hearted folks. And then a few of the counselors, and in fact a couple of the lead ones, they had themselves come up through the city, not through such terrible conditions, but they'd gone to Hunter College where, was free, and they were themselves largely black and Puerto Rican. And so it was felt that was appropriate to deal with 13 and 14-year-old girls. And there was one girl there who kind of stood out. She was just not disliked, not terribly different, but somehow the other kids kind of bonded with each other. But she stood out. And you know how when you go away somewhere like to camp or to college or whatever, you can sort of create your own persona, right? And so she had done this, and she called herself Lil Bit. And I don't know where that came from. Maybe it was a cartoon character, maybe it was, but she was Lil Bit. And Lil Bit did not look like a young black girl would want to look like in those days, okay? She was kind of tall and rangy, kind of a sort of not the kind of body you would want to have. She had rather full mouth, full lips, and actually, like many of them, she couldn't take care of her hair. This was not really Black Power days. You didn't leave it natural, but she didn't have the ways. And the other girls would work on each other's hair, right? But she was not really a part of that. And I have to say also, I was myself totally inadequate as a counselor, because I I would try to reason with them, and this was not what they were used to, right? Not that they were perfectly bright, but they were used to being screamed at and worse. And they just thought I was a fool, right? They just thought I was an absolute idiot. The only thing I had two things going for me. One was that I had long, streaky blonde hair. And even though they'd be like screaming at me for something stupid, they would, in the middle of it, reach out and touch my head, touch my hair, and say, "Oh, you have the good hair." Then the other thing was I could dance. I mean, you can't see me on the radio or whatever, but I could dance in those ways. And so it was in one of those times that things changed for a little bit. Because when it rained, we didn't have to go out and go in that slimy pool. We didn't have to spend overnight, the one night a week. We were just in that sort of commons area. And they had the record player that played 45s, and they'd drop down, and they'd drop down. And this was the time of Diana Ross and the Supremes. And you think about Diana, I mean, what did she look like? She was kind of tall and rangy. She had kind of full lips. She was, she had, God knows, a lot of work done on her hair. But Lil Bit knew absolutely every single word of every song. I mean, Will We Forget It? Stop, In the Name of Love, and Baby Love. She knew everything. She could lip sync to everything. And she was Diana. And so she would say to the other girls, because they could see this, right? She would say to them, "You come on up here." And she would get them into a line, and then they'd be the Supremes. She was always Diana. And so from then on, whenever they were doing anything, they'd say, "Come on, Little Bit, come sit with us," or even go into the water, "Come on over here, Little Bit," or sitting together at meals, and they even work a little bit at her hair with her. And so for those 3 weeks, that Little Bit was a very big little bit. Maybe the only time in her life, who knows? But for those 3 weeks, thanks to Diana Ross, Little Bit was a big little bit.
You're listening to Terminal City Tales. That was Marylee Stephenson. Our next story is from Victoria Fedulova.
So it was a couple of years ago, back when I was living in Montreal. And I'd like to tell you about how I met a TV star from Toronto. I'm not really into TV shows, but I was watching a couple of TV shows back then because, well, it was winter and it was freezing and got dark super early. So there was not much to do, but I don't know, maybe go to a bar and flirt with a French-Canadian guy. And trust me, they're totally hot, but I couldn't go to bars every single night. So sometimes I would just stay at home and watch a couple of episodes of whatever was on. With a glass of wine, of course, or maybe two. And there was one Canadian TV show I liked at the time. Nothing too dramatic, but entertaining enough. And the show was called The Listener. I think it's still ongoing, but I'm not sure. And yeah, one of the reasons I was following the show was that the main character was a strikingly handsome young man with bright blue eyes and telepathic abilities. Doesn't every woman dream of somebody like that? Anyway, like I said, I'm not really keen on TV, but I'm crazy about theater. So I would go to the theater almost as often as I went to bars and pubs. And there was a small theater next to where I lived called La Chapelle. They staged some experimental plays, and I went there pretty often. One thing about going to the theater in Montreal, though, is you should always check which language the show is in. So this time I was in luck, and it was a play about 3 women, and it was in English. Yay! I believe the play was good, but I'm totally blank on what it was about. What I do remember is that I recognized one of the actors. And this is when you think I actually got to meet that blue-eyed paramedic guy from the TV show I told you about. But no, actually it was an actress. A beautiful oriental-looking woman who played a doctor on the same TV show. The actress from The Listener who, for some reason, traveled from Toronto to participate in this performance. And I was like, is it her or is it just a look-alike? Oh, and I failed to mention that I was kind of dating the technician who worked at that theater at the time. So he was in his booth doing the sound and light, and he didn't even know I was there. But I was so curious that I actually texted him to ask during the intermission. And so he responded saying that, yes, that was her, and isn't she gorgeous? And he suggested that since I was there already, why don't I wait for him after the show and we might go for a drink or something. So the show is over and I'm waiting for him in the tiny lobby of La Chapelle, and here comes Mylène, the actress. And I'm a very shy person, and I honestly don't know what to do at this point. Should I approach her and tell her that I love the show and she's great? Shall I just pretend that I don't recognize her? After all, she's not super famous, right? And what happens is that she comes up to me and says, haven't I seen you somewhere before? And this is when my technician friend arrives and he introduces us to each other, and she seems to think that I'm an actress here in Montreal and we've met. At which point I kind of feel obliged to say that I'm a fan and not an actress, and there is no way she could have met me anywhere because I've just moved here. Finally, she invites me to join them at some private party, and I'm under the impression that she has misinterpreted the relationship between me and the technician guy. And this becomes really awkward because I don't want to join the party, and because it wasn't him who invited me to join it. So I thanked her and said no. And as we were saying goodbyes, she repeated something nice about my face and my looks and how she was sure that I was an actress from wherever. And that was flattering. But still, I was leaving with a feeling that things were somehow reversed. Her recognizing me instead of the other way around, and me getting invited to the party without my technician friend asking me to join him. That was a weird night.
You're listening to Terminal City Tales. That was Victoria Fedulova. Our next story is from Woody Morrison.
One of the other movies I worked on was called The Pledge. It was shot here in BC. Most was up around Penticton and Heatley and all up in that area. And Jack Nicholson was starring in it, and Sean Penn was the director. I was working as a set dresser, and so we dressed the town of Heatley to look like a little town in Nevada named Salamander or something like that. So we had the whole thing dressed, and it was a hot summer day. And it was kind of funny, we were shooting scenes with people walking around with cones of ice cream, but the ice cream never melted because it was mashed potatoes with food coloring, and that was ice cream cones. And I was walking by a small business, and they had some cast chairs sitting there. And Jack Nicholson was sitting there, leaning back, sun shining on his face, eyes closed, and I stopped. And he opened one eye and looked at me. I said, "What are you doing, cooking?" He says, "Nope, getting a little makeup." He was a real quiet guy. So anyway, that was the only time I got a chance to talk to him. Those are times we were busy off doing other things.
That story was from Woody Morrison. You're listening to Terminal City Tales, stories told by people like you, on Vancouver Co-op Radio. Today's show is Stargazing. Our last story is from Nikki MacLennan.
2001. Grey Cup, Saddle Dome, Calgary. I go to pick up tickets at the CP Palliser Hotel with my friend Melanie. As we walk in the Oak Room at the CP Palliser, Melanie's friend, Les, says, "Hey, there's Mr. T." I went, "Really? Where?" He said, "Over there." I look. Oh my goodness. Mr. T is standing at a little table chatting up two divorcees. Melanie and Les and I go and sit down, order a glass of wine. I decide I'm going to go talk to Mr. T. I used to watch Mr. T. You know, Mr. T, the pity the fool from the A-Team. That Mr. T. With the mohawk that's called something else and the lots of gold chains. Big, glorious African-American man. Oh, my goodness. So I watch his conversation. Eventually, he's coming to an end, I can tell, because he starts to back up. And he puts his hands together, kind of a semi-prayer, semi-clap without clapping, and excuses himself, bit by bit, to these women. So I get up and I go over next to him. He looks at me, and I said, hello. He says, hello. I just wanted to say thank you for all the joy that you have brought into my life. Oh, thank you very much. It's all you. I said, no, it's all you. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah. You're welcome, sister. It's all you. It's all you. I walked back to my seat. A few minutes later, the 250-pound Mr. T is at my side. I introduce my friends, Melanie. This is Mr. T of the A-Team and many, many other shows. And this is Les Brown, one of the coaches of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers who's playing in the Grey Cup tomorrow. I know who that is, fool. And they do the fist bump, hey, brother, hey, brother, hey, brother, hey, brother. I say to him, can I ask you a question? You can ask Mr. T anything you want to know. What you want to know, sister? I'll tell you anything you want to know. I play big, and sometimes it freaks people out. So I started playing small. But that freaked them out too. What do I do? He steps back a bit, contemplating. You don't have to play big, you is big, you just be you. And he sits down next to me. Lawrence, Two Road, and I talk. He talks of Chicago, where he grew up in the projects. He talks of his mother, who cleaned houses for white people at $87 a month welfare in a 3-bedroom room. If a man don't love his mama, he can't love you. If a man don't love his mama, he can't love you. He repeated things that seemed to be important to him twice. He repeated things that seemed to be important to him twice. He talks of his 11 brothers and sisters. He wasn't happy how they treated their mother. They didn't have the respect for her that he thought she deserved. He says he loves God. Mr. T tells me about bouncing, the gold chains. I find out later customers who lost their items or left them behind in the nightclub after a fight, he would wear them as he bounced outside, and they would come back and see him to get their chains. They could not go back in to the bar where they probably weren't allowed, but they could just see him and pick up, and that's how the chain started. He doesn't mention the 200 fights or getting sued and always winning. T tells me how being a bouncer led to bodyguarding. He tells me how he bodyguarded for Elizabeth Taylor and Michael Jackson. He doesn't tell me about carrying a .357 and a snub-nose .38. He does talk about having cancer. T-cell lymphoma. It's kind of funny because it's T-cell. It's in remission. He eats a lot of chicken for the protein every day. Why are you in Calgary anyhow? Sometimes people ask me why I come up here. I tell them I come up to go bowling. I thought I'd catch me a concert, Tina Turner concert. She hot. I saw her last night. Tomorrow, I'm going to see the game. You going to the game? I say, yeah, I'm going to the game with my friend Terry. Well, if you want, if you want. You can come up to my hotel room before the game. We can hang out if you want. Okay. We leave the lounge. We've closed the lounge. It's closing time. My friend, Melanie, meets a friend of hers in the lobby. He opens the piano, and he starts playing the piano. I ask him, "Do you know Diana Krall's Peel Me a Grape?" "Yeah, just a second, hold on." Blink, bling, blink, bling. Peel me a grape, crush me some ice, skin me a peach, save the fuzz from my pillow. Talk to me nice, talk to me nice, you've got to wine me and dine me. Heh, that's sweet. Heh. I turn around and T's been listening to me. I think he's on the other side of the lobby. He's not. Sunday, game day. I go to church dressed in 3 layers of warmth. I hope it's warm enough for a football game in Calgary. Our tickets are in the very last row, at the very top, at the very end of the bowl where there's no protection. I get to the Palliser. They won't tell me what room T's in, and I didn't ask him yesterday. I used to work in hotels. Don't mess with me. I go to the lobby phone. I pick up the lobby phone. I look directly at the agent who picks up the phone as it's ringing. It's me. I say, "Mr. T's room, please." They have to put me through. So they do. "Hi, I'm in the lobby. Come on up. 936. The door opens. Mr. T politely invites me into his suite. I am cool. I have not been uncool since I met. I am I'm surprised at my coolness. T pulls the bed sheets up and pats the bed. There, you can sit right there. I sit down sideways, side saddle, and look down at the bed. I'm sitting on Mr. T's bed, and I see little Mr. T hairs on the white sheets of the Mr. T's bed. I'm cool. I'm cool. T asks me as he's prepping, "This weather makes me ashy." I have no idea what ashy means. "Would you put some cocoa butter on me?" And he hands me a jar of Palmer's cocoa butter, which I have exactly the same product at home. Because I like smelling like cocoa, and it makes my skin feel nice. I open the jar, I pull out a whack, because Mr. T's shoulders are broad. I warm it up. He says, as I'm just about to put it on, "Make sure you warm it up first." I'm tough, but I'm tender. I'm tough, but I'm tender. I continue putting the Palmer's cocoa butter on him. I can't describe how many feet wide he is. His arms are enormous. His arms are bigger than 1.5 of my thighs each. As I put the cocoa butter on him, I see that there's little round holes. They're not really holes, they're indentations, but they're scars. And I realize those are gunshots. Those are bullet holes at some point. Those are scars from bullets. "I have to choose my jewelry. What kind of jewelry do you think I want to take?" I said, "You don't want to wear much of anything, because if you do, it will freeze and stick to your skin." "Okay, so I'll go a little light." He unrolls his little jewelry bag. I help him choose. Big, honkin', probably 3-carat diamond earrings. He unrolls his jewelry bag. Further, there are a plethora of kind of medium-sized for average, guys, to massively thick necklaces. And one, what I called a turkey platter, a 3-inch by 4-inch slab of gold encrusted with diamonds with a motherin' huge sapphire in the middle of it. Don't wear that. He's got Sorels, the really nice boots. He's going to give them away to somebody when he's done. He turns to me and says, "Okay, I'm ready. Would you mind carrying my bag?" His jewelry bag. It's a little 12-inch by 18 by 11-inch bag. He hands it to me. "Don't put it down." Okay. So I put it on my shoulder. We get to the Saddle Dome. Terry, T, myself, and T's friend Al. "Hey, Nikki, open my bag." He's sitting in the front row of this long van, taxi van. Al's gone to go get the tickets. "There's a towel on top. Pass it up to me." I pass it up to him. He puts the towel over his head and drapes it like a ball cap visor over his face so people can't see him. "If people can get to me, my price goes down." And yes, he repeated this too. We go through the crowd. I am with Terry about 15 feet behind him. He's the main event. People are noticing him. Some people come up and say, pity the fool. And some people come up and say, and he fills in, "Pity the fool." At one point he turns, "Where my girls at?" My friend Terry and I are behind him. We're good. I'm carrying his bag of jewelry. I'm estimating probably, $300,000. He doesn't wear it anymore, but I carried it that day. So I'm carrying his bag of jewelry as if it's lunch. So I'm not a target. After the game, T wants chicken. "You got a Church's?" I have no idea what Church's means. "Chicken. You got any chicken?" Yeah, we have Kentucky Fried Chicken." "Kentucky Fried? What kind of chicken is Kentucky Fried Chicken? I never heard of Kentucky Fried Chicken." "It's what we have. Let's go to Kentucky Fried Chicken." We arrive at K-Fry on 17th Avenue. There are less than a dozen people in line. They notice it's Mr. T. They part and invite him up to the front. "Oh, no, that's okay. No, sir, you go first." "What do I order?" I say, "Get a bucket." "I'd like a bucket." T notices there's a gentleman sitting alone at a table. He's got a coffee and one piece of chicken and a piece of bread. T goes over to him. "Excuse me, sir. Can I get you anything? Would you like another coffee or another piece of chicken? Is there anything that I can get you?" The gentleman looks up and says, "No, thanks, I'm good," and then notices it's Mr. T, and his eyes get big and says, No, sir, thank you very much, sir. No, sir, I'm fine, thank you, I'm fine, thank you very much." T says, "Are you sure?" "I'm sure, thank you very much." T gets in line, pays for the chicken. We go back to his hotel room. We pray over the bread and chicken and coleslaw and potato salad and pops. Let's keep in touch. I don't ask for his number or email. I leave. Monday morning, T's leaving early. Now I am no longer cool. I am at home regretting not getting his email. He asked me, and I didn't get it. I got dressed. I went downtown. I have a photo of me looking angry, with T's arm wrapped around me, and he's smiling. We had a good weekend. I hung out with Mr. T. Not like that, but I hung out with Mr. T. Me and Mr. T. We don't have a thing going on.
That was Nikki MacLennan. This is Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO FM 100.5, and coopradio.org on the internet. Everyone has a story. We want to hear yours. Send us your story in an MP3 file or contact us to record you. Our addresses are connect@terminalcitytales.ca, facebook.com/terminalcitytales, or on Twitter @tcitytales. You've been listening to Terminal City Tales, the program that brings you stories told by people like you. Today's show was Stargazing. Our storytellers were Marylee Stephenson, Victoria Fedulova, Woody Morrison, and Nikki MacLennan. Terminal City Tales is produced by Pam Bentley, Victoria Fedulova, Dale McGladdery, and me, Ben Bisset. That's it for today's show. We hope you enjoyed it. Come back again next week for a whole new set of stories.